The wedding was everything Sophia had dreamed of. A breathtaking luxury ceremony, hundreds of guests, white roses, crystal chandeliers, and a mansion that looked straight out of a movie. She smiled for every camera, held my hand, kissed me in front of everyone, and whispered, "We're going to have the perfect life." I believed every word. That day, I felt like the luckiest man alive. For the first few weeks, everything seemed perfect. Breakfast together, late-night movies, weekend trips. It felt like a dream. But dreams don't always last. Little things started changing. She stopped asking, "How was your day?" Instead, she started asking, "When are we buying another car?" Every conversation somehow ended with money. Luxury vacations, designer jewelry, a bigger mansion, private clubs. At first, I thought she was just ambitious. I wanted to make her happy, so I kept saying, "Soon." Then, one afternoon, she walked into Daniel's office with me. His employees greeted me politely, because everyone knew I was Daniel's best friend. But Sophia didn't understand that. She quietly looked around the office, the expensive furniture, the awards, the luxury cars outside, and smiled. On the drive home, she asked a strange question. "How much is your company worth?" I smiled, looked at the road, and answered, "It's not mine." She laughed, thinking I was joking. I wasn't. I told her everything. The mansion, the Lamborghini, the luxury lifestyle. It all belonged to Daniel. Silence. She didn't say a single word for almost an entire minute. Then, she slowly turned toward the window. The smile on her face completely disappeared. For the first time, I saw disappointment, not love, in her eyes. And in that moment, I realized I hadn't married the woman I loved. I had married the woman who loved my money. After that night, something inside Sophia changed. Or maybe it had always been there, and I was only seeing the truth now. The woman who once greeted me with a smile every morning barely looked at me anymore. Our conversations became shorter, our dinners fell silent, and the house that once felt full of love slowly became cold and empty. One evening, I surprised her with her favorite white roses, hoping to bring back the woman I had fallen in love with, but she barely glanced at them before leaving them on the kitchen counter without even saying thank you. I kept convincing myself that every marriage goes through difficult seasons, but then the credit card bills started arriving. Luxury handbags, designer shoes, diamond jewelry, and expensive purchases I had never approved. When I finally asked her about them, she didn't apologize. She simply looked me in the eyes and calmly said, "I thought you could afford it." Those words echoed in my mind all night. Not, "I thought we could afford it," but "I thought you could." That's when I realized love had been replaced by expectations. The next morning, she left the house unusually early without kissing me goodbye or telling me where she was going. For the first time in my life, curiosity defeated trust, and I decided to follow my own wife. I watched her drive across the city, passing luxury hotels and shopping districts until she stopped outside an expensive law office. Confused, I waited across the street, wondering why my wife would need a divorce lawyer. Moments later, another luxury car arrived. A well-dressed man stepped out, and Sophia greeted him with the same warm smile she used to save for me. They shook hands, then embraced like people who had known each other for years. My heart began pounding as every question I'd been asking myself suddenly stood just a few feet away. I slowly crossed the street, my hands trembling with every step. And just as I reached the entrance, I heard 4 words that shattered everything I believed about my marriage. "He still believes me." Just as I reached the entrance, my entire body froze. I couldn't believe what I had just heard. "He still believes me." Those 4 words kept echoing inside my head. I carefully moved closer, making sure they couldn't see me. The glass door was slightly open. Their voices became clearer. The man smiled, then quietly asked, "So, when are you finally telling him?" Sophia folded her arms, looked completely calm, and replied, "Not yet. He's still useful." Every heartbeat felt heavier than the last. Useful? Was that all I had become? The man laughed softly. You're smarter than I thought. Sophia smiled. The same smile, the one that once made me believe she truly loved me. Then she said something that completely destroyed me. Once everything is transferred into my name, I'll leave him. I felt like the ground disappeared beneath my feet. My hands started shaking uncontrollably. I couldn't breathe. Everything suddenly made sense. The expensive shopping, the fake affection, the sudden coldness. It had never been love. It had always been a plan. I wanted to walk inside, to confront them immediately, but something stopped me. If I exposed them now, I'd lose every chance to learn the whole truth. So instead, I quietly stepped back, opened my phone, and pressed the record button. For the first time, I wasn't thinking like a husband. I was thinking like someone who had just discovered the biggest betrayal of his life. The recording had only lasted a few minutes, but it was enough. Enough to prove that the woman I loved was hiding a life I knew nothing about. I stayed inside my car, watching them leave the law office together. They walked toward the black Rolls-Royce. Sophia smiled again. Not the fake smile she gave me at home, a real one. The kind I hadn't seen in months. I waited until they drove away. Then I followed them, carefully, keeping enough distance so they would never notice my car. They crossed half the city before stopping at an exclusive country club, a place where memberships cost more than my yearly salary. I watched them enter together, laughing, talking, looking like a couple, not strangers. I wanted to walk inside, but I knew I didn't belong there. Instead, I took out my camera and started taking photographs. Every handshake, every smile, every moment they shared. I needed proof, not assumptions. As I lowered the camera, someone suddenly spoke behind me. "Mr. Ethan?" My heart skipped a beat. I slowly turned around. Standing behind me was an elderly man in an expensive gray suit. He looked at me, then looked toward Sophia. After a long silence, he quietly asked, "You don't know the truth, do you?" Before I could answer, he reached into his briefcase, pulled out a sealed brown envelope, and handed it to me. On the front, only 6 handwritten words appeared. "Open this when you're alone." He walked away without saying another word. I stood there, holding the envelope in my trembling hands, wondering whether my life was about to change forever. I didn't open the envelope there. Something about that man's voice told me to wait. I drove home in complete silence. The house felt emptier than ever. Sophia still wasn't back. I locked the front door, walked into my office, closed the curtains. Then finally, I placed the envelope on the desk. For a long moment, I just stared at it. My hands refused to move. Part of me was terrified of what I might find inside, but another part needed the truth, no matter how painful it was. I slowly broke the seal. Inside, there was a thick stack of documents, photographs, bank statements, property records, and one handwritten letter. The first photograph made my blood run cold. It showed Sophia standing beside the same businessman, but the date printed on the back was nearly 4 years old, almost a year before I had even met her. My hands started shaking again. I turned to the next photograph, then the next. Vacation after vacation, restaurant after restaurant, hotel after hotel. They had been together long before I entered her life. Then I unfolded the handwritten letter. It read, "She never married you for love. She married you because someone convinced her that your best friend Daniel was hiding millions under your name." I stopped breathing. Daniel? My best friend? None of this made sense. Why would Daniel let everyone believe I was rich? And how did this stranger know everything? Then I reached the final page. There was only one sentence. If you want the whole truth, meet me tomorrow. Below it was an address, an abandoned warehouse on the edge of the city. I looked out the window. For the first time, I realized this wasn't just about my marriage anymore. Someone had been planning this for years.